Hey guys, GMX here, and in today's video we'll be making some hexagon shaped mahogany trays. These can be used for storage and even a dice tray for tabletop games. To start, we'll be cutting out multiple 3/4 inch thick hexagon shaped mahogany pieces. To see how these are made, be sure to check out our previous video on setting up your own hexagon table saw jig. With our hexagons, I first measured out 1-inch bands around the hexagon. This is to serve as our lips for the tray, with the center being the material that we are removing. Now I've made sure we have all the proper safety equipment before using our power tools. To remove all the material, I'm using a straight router bit set to a depth of 1/2 inch. All material and equipment used in this project will be down in the description below. Now that I have removed a lot of the material, I'm going to be cleaning up the edges with a hand chisel. This is one of the first times I've used a chisel for more delicate woodworking, and so I tried to pick up a lot of tips and tricks while doing this project. One thing I learned to help some of you out there was to go very slowly and to make sure you use a slight overlap on your last chisel to help make it more flush. When it came to the finer details, I used a rocking motion and put my shoulder weight down on the chisel to slowly take off a small bit of material at a time. Trying to take off too much material can cause damage to your workpiece. Next, I went ahead and sanded the entire piece to a 400 grit finish. I wanted my tray to be able to stack, so I'm going to be using some small 1/4 inch magnets that we will be placing around the lip of our tray. Since our lip was 1 inch thick, I measured out 1/2 inch on 3 corners of the tray to ensure that it was centered in the lip. Next, I took a 1/2 inch drill bit and drilled out 3 holes just deep enough so that the magnet would fit flush against the top of the wood. Now that we got the top side, we will now do the bottom side. Note that when we place the magnets on the bottom side, we will want to make sure the polarity of the magnet is the same as the top side. The easiest way to make sure that you have the polarity right is to simply place the magnet near your hole, and the magnet on the other side of the wood will pull the magnet to the correct side. I can honestly say I played with these things for about a good 10 minutes. Next, I wanted to play around with freehanding some straight lines with my router. Let's say I'm not an expert. If I truly wanted straight lines, I should probably invest in a router table to ensure that I can get a proper dimensions and use guides. Since this piece was being used to test out on, I took the time to practice my chiseling a little bit more to see if I can get cleaner and crisper lines and pick up a few tricks. After a great breakfast, I decided that I wanted to make the next trays mirrored of one another so that they could close and form a case. I did this by making the same 1-inch lip and then adding a center line to each of those so that the case could have two sides. I again used my router to remove the portions I did not need and would be cleaning up the edges with my chisel. One of the tricks I learned in my tinkering was to actually use your chisel to make a guide for where you want to be removing material. This ensures you keep a good line. Additionally, scoring where you want the chisel to end makes sure that you don't dig too deep into your workpiece. I also sanded these trays up to 400 grit, starting from a 200 and working my way up. I utilized one of my round chisel handles as a great way to ensure that I was sanding flat across my workpiece. For the top and bottom face, I used a scrap piece of pine to ensure that I did not pit the top or bottom of the workpiece and it stayed nice and flat. I repeated the process on the mirrored piece and then got to marking my magnets, using the same method I did for the first tray. Now that all pieces have their magnets placed, I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue epoxy to glue the magnets in place. I repeated this for all magnets and then sanded and removed away excess epoxy with my chisel. Now that the magnets are glued in place, we are going to be adding wood protectant to all our pieces to make them pop. With the protectant, I want to make sure there's enough on these to completely cover but not soak the piece, and any excess is wiped off with a microfiber cloth. And there you have it, hexagon shaped mahogany trays to use for your liking. Sub for natural 20s. Be sure to give a like on this video and comment your favorite part. I am GMX, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.